Hello, John from Western Maine Defensive Tactics back again. It's been quite a while since I posted a video, so I figured I'd go ahead and post this video on Bowie knife resources. Books, videos, and other references you can use to further your Bowie knife education, whether your interest lies in the Bowie knife as a tool or a weapon or a little bit of both. The first thing I'm going to recommend isn't a book, it's not a video, it's the person. I recommend highly James Keating, Master at Arms from Combat Technologies, or Comtech in Oregon. I've trained with Mr. Keating several times, both in person, at seminars, and via video for quite a while. And I can't say enough good things about Jim. He's a gentleman and a scholar. He's an excellent trainer. I always have a great time and learn so much from Jim, even just from a day of private instruction. Go to a seminar when he has one. Definitely sign up for private instruction. You will never regret it. You will never regret it. He will teach you so much, and he will save you so much time, so much effort, and so much money, it's not even funny. He'll definitely have you started on the right path, knowing what you're doing, so you can take the skills that he gives you home and really hone them and use them. Like I said, I can't say enough good things about Jim. He is just excellent, excellent to work with. Now, to references. Back in the 90s, I believe it was 1994, Mr. Keating released a 5-video set called American Blade Concepts, dealing with the Bowie knife. You need the whole thing. Get all 5 videos. Basically, American Blade Concepts deals with a basic progressive system on Bowie knife use, using a large knife for self-defense or combative purposes, and every aspect of that is in this series. From the timing of the thrust, the timing of the back cut, stances and guards to use with various knives, defensive flow, offensive flow, carving cuts, into throwing the Bowie combatively, into using a Bowie and a toothpick or 2 Bowies together, or a Bowie combined with another weapon. The 6th video in the series deals with using a Bowie knife and a pistol, using the Spanish notch, using the trapping guards. It's all there. Everything you could want to know about serious use of a Bowie knife in a fight is in this video series in a way that you can learn it, you can train it, and you can do it. Combine that with some work with Jim himself, and you'll have it pretty well down. I cannot say enough good things about it. I've had the entire series for about 20 years. I didn't bring the whole series down because I didn't want to cart it all down here. I've had the VHS series for a long, long time, and I've actually worn some of the tapes out. I need to replace them with DVDs. But get them, because great things like that, sure, it's been around 20 years or so. Great things like this aren't around forever. Formats change, technology changes, something might happen where it's no longer available. Get it. Get the whole series. And don't look back. You'll definitely will not regret it. Along those lines, another person I'll recommend is Pete Couts from Alliance Martial Arts in New York. I've also trained with him personally, both at seminars and with private instruction. Pete released a 4-part Bowie Knife Combatives DVD set here a few years ago, and it's excellent. It's excellent. It's a little bit different method than what Jim uses, but they overlap, they coincide nicely. You definitely should get that too. Definitely. I can't say enough good things about Pete. I had a great time training with him at his house out there in New York. Another person I'll recommend, Bill Bagwell. His book, Bowie's Big Knives and the Best of Battle Blades, was compiled in, believe the year 2000. It was a compilation of articles he wrote as Edge Weapons editor for Soldier of Fortune magazine back in the 80s and early 90s. I read a lot of these articles when I was growing up. I missed a few, but I actually found some. When I first got the book, I was like, wow, I never saw this one when I was a kid. I don't remember this. An excellent book. It's got some great pictures of his custom Bowie knives. First 3 chapters are new material that he's wrote when he released the book. First 3 chapters are new information on some of the mechanics of Bowie knives, some of the subtleties of the technique, and some of the history. But it's an excellent reference. It's got a lot of little anecdotes in the articles about how Bowie knives work, what makes them superior to other knives. He doesn't spell it right out all the time, Sometimes he demonstrates it in subtle ways. Sometimes he just comes right out and tells you. Like the first one, the first article is, can the K-bar cut it? Where he compares the issue K-bar, which is, served GIs and Marines for generations. Is when you think about K-bar, you think about this 7-inch leather-handled knife, and it's a fighting knife, right? And he's saying, gee, this is a good knife, but maybe we could have done our troops a little bit better by giving them, say, a 9 1/4-inch Bowie-style knife made a certain way. Just throws it out there. Not to say the K-bar is not a good knife. It is, but you know what? We could have done better with that knife. That's all he's saying. And he mentions things about Bowie knives throughout the series of articles. There's a lot of really good Bowie knife information there. And Bill's comments and just the little things, the things he says in a sentence or two, have really helped shape and kind of helped me refine the designs of my own Bowie knives over the years. I've gone back to it many, many times. This is my second copy of the book. The first copy I have is on loan to a friend, and it's got pages falling out and a whole bit. This is the book I got from Bill himself. Okay, moving right along, the book that we all think of, that many of us have read, Bowie Knife by Raymond Thorpe. Now, kind of controversial because some people, from what I understand, have got this book when they were a kid out of the library, because it's been around since the 40s. Read this book when they were a kid and took it as gospel at the time, and were disappointed to learn that, hey, well, not everything in this book is 100% historically accurate. I found it when I was in my 20s. I was in a knife shop and said, Bowie knife? There's a book on Bowie knives? Awesome! Snapped it up and read it, and I loved it. It was just great. Because it got my Bowie knife juices flowing, I didn't realize there was a book specifically on Bowie knives out there. And when I have, like a new student or somebody who wants to learn about Bowie knives, I give them this because, like I said, it gets the Bowie knife juices flowing. It really, really gets you involved with the culture of the Bowie knife and stuff. And I think the book itself is a nice icon of the American affinity for the Bowie knife because, hey, this has been around for a long time. A lot of people in the country have read it. I mean, it's probably internationally famous in certain circles. It's an icon of the Bowie knife culture itself. So, moving along. Now, we know the historical accuracy of this leaves something to be desired. If you want true, factual, good information on Jim Bowie in particular, Three Roads to the Alamo by William Davis. This also includes the story of Davy Crockett and William Barrett Travis. Every third chapter is about Jim Bowie. Ooh, there's bugs everywhere. Hi! This is a pretty good book. It's got a lot of historical references on all three gentlemen. It's not all about Jim Bowie, obviously. It would be outstanding, excellent to have a nice, thick, historically accurate tome specifically about Jim Bowie, his exploits, and his knife, and have it all footnoted, and have a bibliography with references, but that's not going to happen. It just is not going to happen with the references we have today. But it's a good read. Anybody who likes Texas history should pick this up, or Davy Crockett, or Travis. It gives a pretty honest assessment of all three men, and it's a really good read. Okay, back to the nuts and bolts of it. You need both of these books. This is Jim Keating's Gentleman's Steel Reader and Gentleman's Steel Reader 2, again by Mr. Keating. Not directly Bowie knife references, though there is Bowie knife information there. Talks about the thrust, talks about the back cut. It also talks about sacred geometry, different aspects of carrying and using knives and other fighting methods. You definitely need both those books. I read them again about once a year, and I pick up new things that I had not understood because I hadn't done the work. If you do the work, if you're working with the things that Jim gives you, you'll understand a little bit more every year until you'll have it all. Moving right along. The big kahuna back here. Norm Flatterman's The Bowie Knife, Unsheathing an American Legend. This is a big, nice book. It's got some outstanding pictures in it, really good text, well-referenced, line drawings, great accoutrements, great pictures. It's a really, really nice coffee table style book. It's got one of my favorite Bowie knives in it, or one of my favorite knives of that era, the 1849 rifleman's knife in it. Got some really good pictures of Confederate D-Guard Bowies. As far as detracting comments or bad points, I would like to see a little bit different organization. I would like to see, for example, the text about the Civil War Bowie knife issues with the pictures of knives from that era, knives from the Civil War. I'd like to see pictures or the text from the antebellum South, Bowie knife information with knives from that era. I'd like to have it, more chronological with the text and the pictures, but hey, it's not always like that, and that's not how they laid out the book. But pretty good book. The downside of this book is it's rather expensive. You might be able to get it cheaper now, but I think it was between $80 and $100 when it first came out. I didn't pay it for that. I found that used, I think, for $45 or $50, so I got a pretty good deal on it. Another one. Bowie Knife Fights, Fighters, and Fighting Techniques by Paul Kirshner. This is a pretty good book. This came out 4 or 5 years ago. I picked it right up. It's a really good book. I enjoyed reading it. It's got some good historical documentation in it. I appreciated Mr. Kirshner's work because it actually included a reference to an incident in California where a miner used 2 pistols and a Bowie knife to fend off 7 or 8 attackers, I believe, and came out on top. I've been looking for that reference for a long time. Hadn't found it, but poof, it was in this book. It's a pretty good book. A little bit weak on the fighting techniques, but I think there's issues behind that. But well worth reading. Great book. Okay, back to the nuts and bolts of it. Cold Steel and Cold Steel. Now, Cold Steel by Alfred Hutton, The Art of Fencing with the Saber. Once you've got a little bit Bowie knife, like say after you've looked at Jim's videos a few times, done a little bit of work, read this book. It'll tell you, or you'll have a little bit of insight when he says, hey, stand like this, move like that. It'll give you a bit of insight to where the Bowie knife came from regarding saber work. And also, it's got some neat things in it itself. It has a little small chapter on slipping. I'm sorry, it does have a small chapter on slipping and timing, but I don't want to give away the whole book. I want you to read it for yourself. Work with sticks, both short and long. Police officers, truncheon, dagger work, things like that. Really good reference. And there's people out there that will say, well, books like this are kind of outdated. It deals with Elizabethan type topics. Well, not really. If you look at a lot of some of your tactical stuff, it's coming from books like this nowadays. You want to learn something new? Go read an old book. Cold Steel from John Stiers. Now, this gives you like a hip pocket class in Bowie knife work. It doesn't mention the Bowie knife per se, but it mentions the knife and trusting it. I really like what Stiers has to say about it because he mentions a lot of what Keating mentions boiled down. He doesn't flesh it out. He just gives you a little bit, you taste it, he expects you to go out and work with it and have confidence in it. And I like that. He's got a lot of good things to say about the thrust and the cut, things like that. Another book that's not directly Bowie knife related, but is valuable as a knife reference, is Ken Warner's The Practical Book of Knives from, I want to say, back in 1975 or 76. I first picked this book up in school, grade school or middle school or something like that, because it was in our library, and read it several times cover to cover. Found it at a gun show, 20 years ago, and said, I've got to have that, just for reference material, and to give to my son someday. Not Bowie knife specific, but it's got some neat pictures in there. Talks about buying Randall knives for $100, stuff like that, and old Bill Moran knives. 2 good chapters of interest will probably be the sharpened pry bar and knives for fighting. Also mentions carrying larger knives, something that's an aspect has been forgotten in our day and age. But really good book if you can find it. Other Bowie knife references? I've got a bunch of them. I just didn't want to load a wheelbarrow full of videos and books down here to the shop to show them to you. There's a lot of stuff out there. Some things I have, but frankly aren't worth mentioning. Some things I have that are worth mentioning I just didn't have. I don't want to overwhelm you. But let's say you nail me down and say, gee, I've got X amount of dollars to spend. Where should I put my money? You should definitely put your money towards Jim Keating's 5-video set, American Blade Concepts. You should definitely get Bill Bagwell's book. If you've got any money left over or you need to save up, you can definitely work for a long time with Mr. Keating's videos. When you've got a little bit more money, grab Pete Coutts' videos too. If you've got a little bit more money and you run across a copy, grab Cold Steel. And that will that'll give you a little bit broader range of Bowie knife information. As you get more and more money, grab Gentleman Steel Reader 2 from Mr. Keating. Again, good books like this, good videos like that, they're not going to be around forever. I had the impression that I thought certain items would be around forever, but they're not. They're just not. Things happen. Markets change. Now, another couple of things you can stay tuned from Western Maine Defensive Tactics will be very soon. I'm going to do a video on the blade, something I've been meaning to do. I've shot a couple of trial versions, didn't like it, deleted them. We're finally going to get around to talking to aspects of the blade because, hey, we've talked about tangs and handles and guards ad nauseum, and some of you have probably been wondering, hey, when are you going to get around to talking about the blade? We're going to do that right off here before summer winds down. Also, we're going to do a chopping video. I've got some clearing to do in the back pasture, so my thought is to do a chopping comparison video with a few of my knives and maybe a Trailmaster and maybe a hatchet thrown in for comparison. Basically just to make clearing the pasture fun and to give me a break from the chainsaw. But again, go to the people first. The way I look at things, something I've observed, you can do all sorts of internet research and not really know anything. There's a lot of crap out there on the internet. There's some good information out there on the internet. There's the same thing with YouTube. But generally my observation is the easier it is to disseminate the information, the lower the value of the information is. Meaning that if you can just put something on a blog, you can just put something on a video and just put it out there and it doesn't cost you anything, okay. Some people will put out crap. Some people will take the time to make a nice video and put it out there with a lot of good information. Stepping up the rung, a video, a book. You revise this information. You have to pay to publish it. You have to pay to produce it. It has to be printed. It has to be manufactured. You spend a little bit more time, actually quite a bit more time, making sure that source of information is worthwhile. But the very best stuff is never written down. It's never filmed. It's in people's heads. That's why you need to get with Jim Keating. That's why you need to get with Pete Gouts. You will never regret it. If you're a serious student of Bowie knives, you need to work with Jim Keating and Pete Gouts. If you can't afford to only do one, go see Jim Keating. Just do it. Spend the money. You'll never regret it. We all owe Jim a huge debt of gratitude as Americans because he saved the American blade fighting art, the Bowie knife. He saved that information and packaged it in such a way that future generations, way beyond Jim, will still be learning from his methods, how he laid them out long after he's gone, long after I'm gone, long after Bill Bagwell and Pete are gone. People will still be learning based on what Jim has put out there. And he saved that information for that. Within 20 or 30 years, if he hadn't done that, it would have been gone. That's why you hear people say, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. Jim released this video series and said, yes, you can, and here's how to do it. And he suffered the critics and the slings and arrows of people who really didn't know any better, that didn't know what the hell they were talking about, whereas he did. He stuck to his guns, and I think history's proven him right. Again, I hope this video helps you out. I hope it saves you a little bit of money as far as when you allocate where you put your money, as far as, limited resources, because we're all on a pretty tight budget today. Again, I can't recommend Mr. Keating or Pete Gouts high enough. Go train with them. You'll have a great time, and you'll learn a ton. You'll start off on the right foot. Okay, we'll see you next time. I hope this helped you out. Take care.